coming up next, we have Explore, make customer-focused decisions in a data-driven world. Now, this is going to be one of those sessions that they've already warned me backstage. It's either going to go for approximately 10 minutes, or these two are going to talk for the next hour. So at any point in time that you're done listening to them, just start waving your hands in the air, and I will come out and I will cut them off. Or they're just going to pay attention to this big clock up here, and they're going to stop on time. And so I'd like to introduce to the stage our very own Andrew Forbes, who is one of our senior product marketing managers here at Zendesk. Andrew, come on out. And again, wave your hands in the air if you want him to stop talking.
Hey everybody, how are you? As Sarah said, I'm Andrew. I'm a product marketing manager here at Zendesk for our Zendesk Explore product. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to make customer-focused decisions in a data-driven world. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about our Explore product, and then we're going to invite up Derek Diaz from Pinterest to talk a little bit about how their team thinks about infusing data and analytics into their decision-making process. So, as we all know, data volumes are growing like crazy. By 2025, IDC predicts that worldwide data volumes will be 175 zettabytes, which is just an incomprehensible number. And customer service interactions are generating no shortage of data. Last year, on Zendesk tickets, we saw over 20 billion updates. And each one of these 20 billion updates are interactions that your brand is having with your customers. These are questions that your customers have. These are thoughts about your process and thoughts about your business. And with all of this data, it's time to start using it to fuel CX improvement. And why do we need to use data to create better customer experiences? Well, you heard from our executives up here earlier the importance of using that to influence your roadmap, but there are some core customer experience reasons why you should use data to influence your customer experience as well. First is that 54% of consumers have higher expectations than just 1 year ago. And 71% of consumers find impersonal experiences frustrating. Now, it's time to use our data to create better experiences. It's time to use it to personalize the experiences that our brand has with our customers and ensure that they can find the information that they need effectively from our brands. And now, I'm sure you all agree, right? We looked at a Harvard Business Review study that was done a little bit earlier this year that said 87% of CX executives say that it's important to study data to see improved CX outcomes. I think we all know how important data is in this day and age. But in that same study, what we found is that 77% of those same executives said that they don't make full use of their data when making decisions. And why is that? Well, the reason that executives aren't using all of their data is because the tools that are out there today are complex, they're hard to use, and they're confined to a small group of folks within your organization. So at Zendesk, we set out to make that easier. And we met with a lot of you, and we did a lot of research, and we built this product called Zendesk Explore. And Zendesk Explore is an analytics product for customer experience leaders to measure and improve the entire customer experience. You can see Explore behind me here. And what we're seeing on screen is Explore's chart builder and just how easy it is to dive into your Zendesk data and analyze trends that are relevant to your business. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Explore, we do want to talk a little bit about what it can bring your business. If our clicker, oh, there we go. The first is that we spent a lot of time working on these pre-built dashboards, and I think Jason touched on these a little bit when he was up on the stage earlier, but these dashboards come right out of the box with Explore and allow you to analyze metrics across all of your service channels instantly, from support, chat, talk, and guide. So you can understand how your team and how your agents are interacting with your customers. You can understand your team's efficiency. You can see how quickly they're solving those tickets, or how quickly your team is performing to meet SLAs. You can also dig into information around how satisfied your customers are with your brand. You can look at all of those CSAT metrics to better understand what keeps your customers satisfied when they reach out to your service team. Next, we realize that every business is different, right? We all are in different industries, we are in different verticals, and we all have different needs when it comes to analytics. And so we wanted to make Explore customizable, and we wanted to make it easy for businesses to build reporting that's relevant to your brand. And so what you're looking at here is Explore's dashboard builder. All you need to do is point and click your way to a few charts like we saw before, and then you can neatly organize all of them on a dashboard. You can add all sorts of filters and ways for users to slice and dice the data so they can analyze it on their own. And finally, we don't just want you all to sit around and slice data and sit there and go, wow, look at our trends. This is awesome. We're doing great. We want you to be able to share that with others in your organization. We want you to be able to share the information that you're collecting about your customers with others in your organization. And so we've tried to make that as easy as possible with Explore. What you can do is you can just type in an email, or you can type in someone's name from your team, and you can share a dashboard with them. And you can even schedule those dashboards for delivery. Derek's team uses that heavily at Pinterest, so I'm excited for you all to hear a little bit about how they are automatically sending out reports to folks on their team. Now, we launched Explore last, I think, October, November, so it's been out in the hands of our customers for about a year, and we just wanted to say thank you to all of you who have come along on this analytics journey with all of us. All of your feedback and all of your input has helped us refine our product roadmap, and you can see a lot of what we've delivered here on the screen behind us. And what we're excited about today is that coming soon, we're going to open up an early access program for a new feature in Explore. It's called the Real-Time Dashboard. And this real-time dashboard has key metrics for chat and talk and support, and it updates in real time. So your team can keep an eye on all of those real-time trends. So you can see how busy all of your groups are, you can see how busy all of your channels are, and you can move your agents to make sure that you're properly allocated to keep up with customer demand across all of these channels. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the real-time dashboard, we have folks that are talking about it in the solution area or the demo booth. You can sign up for early access there, and you can also swing by and talk with Vincent Dillette on our product team. He's going to be doing a presentation in the theater area, talking a little bit more about Explore and diving deep into the product if you want to go and learn a little bit more about the product. But with that, I want to change gears here. I want to invite up one of our customers who is doing very exciting things with data. I want to invite up Derek Diaz from Pinterest, and we're going to have a little fireside chat and talk about how their team thinks about data. How are you, sir?
I'm quite well. How are you?
All right. Doing good. Thank you so much for joining us. There may be one or two people out here that don't know about Pinterest. Maybe they've lived under a rock. I would love to have you just start and tell us a little bit about Pinterest and a little bit about your team.
Sure. If you want to find out about specialty rocks, you can pin those on your own board. There's all different types depending on what kind of rock you're looking for. So the work that I do, I work in IT. I also manage the overall Zendesk relationship. We have at Pinterest roughly 12 to 14 different instances of Zendesk from multiple different teams. And the other thing that I do, because I love data so much, is that I help out every single team build and craft the different dashboards that will make it so that they can really figure out and diagnose what it is that will be able to make success for their different teams or businesses.
Perfect. And we are super excited to have you here. I know we have a few topics to talk about today. We really wanted to dive into how you put analytics to use. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about zeroing in on the metrics that matter. We're then going to talk about how you've scaled or thought about scaling reporting as Pinterest has grown. And then we're going to talk about how you use data to influence others within your company.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. All right, let's dive in on the first topic. So the first one is zeroing in on the metrics that matter. And I think first we want to start by just hearing your philosophy around analyzing data.
So it's a struggle, because really data is just a dump of so many things. You gave a giant number of all the data that we're getting, and it's
20 billion, take it up.
20 billion. I'll take that amount of money. So it's just incredible. And similar to how a newspaper writer, I know there's no such thing as newspapers anymore, but a newspaper writer would figure out a slant on a story. In a similar way, when you're looking at the data, you have to figure out how you're going to look at it, how you're going to cut it, how it fits with your business. There's so many different people that will tell you what you're supposed to look at. Listen to them, but don't always do that. I'm a big fan of going with your gut. So we know where we're doing poorly and where we're succeeding. We just know it. We know it from talking to our team. We know it from just like glancing at different tickets. And so really what you need to do is you need to be able to create reports and dashboards that fit your gut. You want to make a hypothesis and then have something that either proves or disproves that. And in that manner, you're able to try something new and then see if that new thing worked based on the reporting that you have, seeing the numbers go up, the numbers go down. And so I'm a big fan of starting with your gut first.
I think that is incredibly important. And something that you mentioned that I think is interesting is, sometimes you can go down the rabbit hole of having an idea and trying to prove yourself correct. But you mentioned that you either try to prove yourself right or wrong. And I think looking at your data and being objective and just trying to figure out what is happening is incredibly important. You could go and try to prove yourself correct. I think you can always do that in some way. But approaching it from a mindset where you're trying to look at, could I even be wrong here is a great way of tackling things.
I mean, there's different levels that you should look at reporting. And I know for my team, I'm looking at higher level, and then when I see outliers, I then ask them what's going on with this, and they actually have reports of their own that answer all my outlier questions, and then it goes even deeper and deeper. And for me, I wanted to answer a fundamental question that 3 years ago I could not answer, which is, are we doing well? Which seems so simple, but we could not answer that question. Are we doing well? I felt like we were doing a good job. It seems like but you don't really know if you're doing a good job, and you have to be able to answer that question. And some of that is just starting to pull different data and looking at different things, whether you know it's the right thing to look at, and then that breeds more questions. And one of the things that I care about a lot is SLAs and backlog. And the reason for that is I don't want to just know how good are we at resolving tickets overall. I want to know how good are we at resolving tickets that are super important, hair on fire type of tickets that made it so I'm bald today. How are we? That was the only joke I have. I have no other jokes. I planned that one. I have no other jokes. Thank you. It was like 5 hours writing that joke. So I like how I had to look at my watch as if it only has 5 hours on it. So high-level tickets, how are we at medium level and low level? And so we've created an SLA based on those different things. If something comes in as a high-level ticket, we have 45 minutes that we have to have a first reply. If it comes in as a medium-level ticket, it's 3 hours, 4 hours for something that's low-level. Because blending it doesn't actually tell me if my service is good. Being able to know when something is urgent, how good are we at that? When something isn't urgent, does that actually give us time to answer the urgent tickets? And we stumbled upon this accidentally, actually, where we were understaffed and doing a very poor job, understandably, at responding to tickets in a timely manner and resolving them in a timely manner. And we figured out there was a certain category of ticket that people didn't care and were just as happy if they were resolved in 1 hour as 9 hours. And that gave us an 8-hour buffer time to be able to solve the really important tickets, which is why I started creating an SLA. So the SLA metric that you see up there is really important because I want to know how good are we overall at hitting the SLAs that we've created, not are we really good at solving tickets fast.
So you've touched on a few metrics. You've touched on SLA, first response time. I think there are a lot of metrics out there that customer experience leaders can look at. If you look at the pre-built dashboards that we have in Explore, there are so many for support, just for that channel. And I think, with all of these metrics, I'd love to get your take on some of the key indicators of success for service teams. And what are some of those key metrics that you're looking at on a day-to-day basis besides SLAs, which I think will be very helpful for folks in the room who might be at different phases of reporting.
So I'm a big fan of customer wait time. First response time is obviously nice. You send something in, you hope that someone out there in the ether responds to you. But customer wait time for me is so important because if I were to, let's say, send a ticket to my cable company because I'm having an issue with my internet service, and they resolve that in 3 days and they never tell me about it. Just magically, 3 days from now, they're like, hey, it's fixed, everything's good. On the other side, if, however, they respond to me every 2 hours saying they've got it and actually solve it in 5 days, I have a better customer experience on the 5-day resolution with them consistently keeping me updated and me knowing that they have the ball. Because on day 1 and day 2 and day 2.5, I have no idea if they're going to solve it. So I'm worried and I'm scared. And so I really, really care about the amount of time that someone waits after they've responded to the ticket. How long is it in the open status before it gets responded to again?
Is that something that your team has always tracked, or is that something relatively new?
It's something that I've always liked because I hate it when I am calling customer service, because I always try to think about, like, what would I want? And I hate it when I'm calling customer service and they're like, I'm going to escalate this to my manager, can we call you back tomorrow? And I'm like, no, you can't. Are you gonna, I don't know you. Keep me on the phone. I'm going to stay on this phone. I know you get paid per phone call. I am not going to leave this phone call in any way, shape, or form until I talk to the next person. And so that's always how I felt. And if someone is doing that kind of ticket response, you want to be able to give that to someone without them having to ask for it.
So another question I have, and I guess this sort of goes into our next topic, so I think we can move into that. It relates to how your metrics have changed as you've grown, and how you've approached reporting. And I think everybody behind, if you haven't noticed, Derek and I decided to do some silly photos just to keep it light. You know, Derek has some amazing face paint. I'm wearing headphones.
We had a Halloween party. You've got to get your face. I've got a great canvas, so you have to utilize the whole thing.
So the next topic we're going to talk about is around scaling your reporting as you've grown. And I think the first question that I wanted to ask was, there are a lot of businesses in the room, and especially in the Bay Area where we are, that are going through rapid growth. And the metrics that you track when you're an early stage company are oftentimes much different than those when you're a mature organization. So I'd love to know, how have things evolved as Pinterest has grown for you?
Well, a difficulty that I consistently hear that people, when I get into different meetings and groups and we talk about reporting and dashboards, and because we're ridiculous and that's what we talk about, is...
It's exciting.
I honestly find it really exciting, but...
So do we.
So that's good. So we'll continually talk about what is the customer's experience, what are they going through, and obviously that is the crucial thing. My want and hope is always to solve one person's issue perfectly and then replicate that thousands or millions of times. It's not helping out thousands or millions of people, but helping out one perfectly. And what we sometimes forget about is the right way to actually look at reporting, to look at the agents that are solving the issues, and how do we look at them? I personally, I think I overheard you having a slide about CSAT. I hate CSAT. I think it's NPS score. A lot of times people are really nice and they'll have a bad experience, and then they'll be like, I don't want that person to be demoted. 9? And so it doesn't really explain whether someone had a good experience or not. And so what I've actually created, and it was not very good using I feel, obviously I'm up here, so I am kind of a shill, but I don't want to just sell the product, but one of the nice things from looking at how the agents are doing is I'm able to pick in Explore the dashboards that I care about and the reporting that I care about, and actually just cycle through groups of agents, regions of agents, people of agents, and the reports themselves just stay there. Whereas before, I would actually have to have a whole tab for this one agent, this one region, this one, and actually have to rebuild them every single time. Whereas now you don't have to. And the things that I care about, you can see categories up there, is I don't want someone to cherry pick tickets, because the amount of tickets that you complete, let's say you complete 300 tickets, is that better than someone who completed 15 hard tickets? I actually would think that the person who completed 15 hard tickets should be applauded more than the 300 cherry pick. So we've actually started grouping difficult tickets. And on the dashboard that I look at for how people are doing, they have to take a certain amount of difficult tickets. It's what we grade them on. We grade them on first reply, we grade them on the customer wait time, on the amount of time that, or the difficulty of tickets that they end up taking. And that way we can also cross-train. I really love being able to look at categories and look at categories by the agents who take them. What are the ones that you take the most? Should we be giving you different tickets? What are the ones that everybody hates? What are the ones in looking at categories that take the longest to resolve? Do they take the longest to resolve because we have no idea how to resolve them, or do they take the longest to resolve because they're really difficult? And being able to really dig down into why agents themselves are either struggling or succeeding at different types of situations and issues that people have.
So for some of those easy questions that your team are getting over and over, I'm sure you can start to leverage some sort of automation and some sort of AI to solve those tickets. So have there been anything you've learned from your data to say these types of issues are things that we can automate?
Yes. I want to automate anything that can be repeated and happens frequently. And you struggle a lot with, and we may talk about, you struggle a lot with what are the metrics that my boss needs to see, and what are the metrics that actually make a difference in my team and actually move things forward. And what I've tried to do is there are different infrastructure teams that can build automation for our operations. And I was tired of trying to sit down and be like, look, we have to do this over and over again. You really could automate this. So I actually created a dashboard on all the things that we have to do that get escalated, that they could be automated, and they get an email of that every single day. So those engineers on all the different teams, I've picked the categories to send to the proper teams that should be automating this, so that they can actually see every single day, whether they read my emails or not, maybe they see them once a week, they can see every single day, these are the things that if you fix this, it would make it so much easier for everybody going forward.
So when you thought about implementing that in that sort of dashboard, did you just think about taking, the ticket classification, what are these tickets about, looking at volume, looking at resolution time? I'd love to hear, just from sort of a tactical building dashboard perspective, how you thought about that.
So that's exactly right. There's tickets, as I mentioned before, that are very difficult. And those type of tickets are tough to automate because there's little idiosyncrasies, different people have slightly different things that they need, there might be multiple touches to that. What we want to automate are the ones that are responded to really fast and happen all the time. So when you're looking at what are the tickets that we get often and what are the tickets that we are able to solve really quickly. And it's almost like death from a thousand cuts. If you can get rid of those and just move them away, then you're able to really focus on the people who have their hair on fire, the people who really need that hand-holding and that extra help. And the people who you're able to just solve right away, they can almost, you wish they never had a problem to begin with, but it makes it so as soon as the issue occurs, it's as frictionless as possible.
I think that's important, being able to make it so customers can get the information they need as fast as they can. I know that you mentioned that you're not the biggest CSAT fan, and I know this, I guess, doesn't entirely pertain to this topic, but I'd love to hear, have you guys thought about new metrics in replace of CSAT, things like customer effort, or along those lines?
Yes. I think that the reason why we still use it is because nobody has an answer to that question. in a similar way to if you saw a friend who just lost a lot of weight, and you're like, how'd you do that? You want them to say, I ate a pill, and look at me now. But really, they're like, well, diet and exercise. And you're like, well, that sucks. Diet and exercise. That's some bull shizzle. So, curse-ish. And so there isn't really an answer like, oh, if I just pick this one metric, all of a sudden that answers the question, which is why it really is a blend of so many things. And that's where the gut comes in. It's, if I was a customer, what would make me feel happy? There's other ways, there's great companies that are doing things where you can actually take the comments and do a sentiment score based on what people say. I think that's really helpful, and we actually do that as well. We will actually look at the comments that people have and try to build a sentiment score of how people feel about the product based on those comments. But you also, that's good, and it turns qualitative data into quantitative data. But being able to be like, oh, I wish someone responded to me right away. I wish they had the answer right away. Something that is simple. If you're looking at a category, and it should be a simple category, but it had more touches. I was talking to someone yesterday and mentioning that you can look at how your agents are doing, and if a certain category is simple, but it continually has 5 touches, 10 touches, 12 touches, and it really should only have 3 touches, you can start to look at that as a customer experience. I don't want to have to go back and forth and back and forth. How many times have you had a response and you were like, they didn't even read my email? They didn't even look. I answered their question and now I have to answer it again. And so being able to pick what it is that you feel for your service would make you feel the happiest, because you're already annoyed that you have a problem. What would make you feel the happiest? What would turn you around? And then thinking of the reports that will show you whether you are doing that well or not.
I think we could spend a ton of time talking about CSAT and effort and QA and all of these different metrics, but for the sake of time, I do want to move us on to the last section here. We have just a couple minutes left. And I think, it's great to look at data within our own team and our own organization, but I would love to think about how you have thought about influencing other teams with data. You touched on the example of sharing every day, but I want to know, is there more to it? And maybe how do you meet with other teams to communicate trends that you're seeing?
The thing that makes me sad and also excited is when I'm listening to someone complain about an issue that they feel like not only can they not solve, but they can't even get their arms around. And in listening to that, I can go, have you looked into this? Have you looked into this report like this? Have you saw this? There was someone I was talking to yesterday that had these spikes that would happen. They would have the right amount of employees, and then all of a sudden there'd be a spike of issues, and they wouldn't be able to solve them in time. And I was like, what if you started reporting on spikes? What if you were able to forecast when a spike happens? What if you were able to figure out when you actually need to have an influx of employees for spikes occurring? And for me, that is the interesting thing, is sometimes we're so in the minutia and we can't see the forest for the trees, and having someone else be like, have you ever thought about, and cutting the data in a different way, looking at it with a different slant, seeing it from a different side, and being able to use that to then have insights on how to fix that problem.
I think it's incredibly important. I think that the best way to be data-driven is to put data into the hands of other people and make them feel empowered that they can make decisions with it. Now, I know we only have about a minute left, so I do want to wrap up. I hope that this was beneficial for everybody out there. If you want to learn more about our Explore product or talk to Derek about how his team at Pinterest thinks about data, we will be by the solution booth. And we want to say thank you so much for joining our session today. And Derek, thank you for joining us to talk about analytics.
My pleasure.